my fashion lovers, welcome to today's tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be looking at how to sew this lovely gown. If you have any question, you can ask in the comment section. Please like and share my video. Let's go straight to the tutorial. For this tutorial, we're going to be starting with the upper bodies. We'll drop the upper bodies before we go to the down part. The down part is going to have ruffles at the down part. So let's begin. I'll be using this fabric for the tutorial. For the upper parts, you are going to use the biggest parts of the body, which is the bust measurement, to cut out. That is what I have. And the length I'm working with is 60, and the upper part is 17. So 60 minus 17 will give you 42. 42 for the down part and 17 for this upper part. And you're going to add 1 inch sewing allowance, making it 18 for the upper part. That is the chest line, the bust point and the waist. Go ahead and mark your chest line, bust point and the waist measurements. The chest line, the bust point and the waistline. We are making use of the basic bodies pattern for the upper parts. And on the shoulder, measure your shoulder measurements, shoulder divided by 2. You take your shoulder slope of 1 inch, then take down the line, the armhole line, down to the chest line. For the neck, I'll be marking the front and the back. I'll be drafting the front and the back. And for the back neckline, I marked 1 inch. For the front neckline, I marked 3 inches. For the length and the width, I'll be making use of 2.5. 2.5 for the neckline. You go ahead and mark out the neckline, the 1 inch for the back, and for the front 3 inches. Then connect your shoulder slope, your 1 inch shoulder slope. And on the bust, on the chest line, you'll be taking the bust measurement on the chest line. Your bust divided by 4. You impute it plus sewing allowance, 2 inches sewing allowance. And on the waistline, you are taking the waist measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches sewing allowance. To mark the darts, the nipple to nipple measurements I'm making use of is 9 inches. 9 inches divided by 2 will give you 4.5. You go ahead and mark it so that you place your dart. That is where your dart is going to be. And the length of the dart will stop at the bust point. The length of the dart will stop at the bust point. You go ahead and take 1/2 inch on both sides of your waistline. 1/2 inch on both sides of the waistline. You connect it to the bust point. That is where the dart is going to stop, on the bust point. And the shoulder slope, go ahead and mark the shoulder slope. Connect it 1 inch for the shoulder slope. And for the armhole, we'll be marking the front and the back armhole. For the front armhole, you are going to get the middle part, measure your armhole, get the middle part, come in by half inch, and connect. Come in by half inch and connect for the front armhole. Then for the back armhole, you are going to connect the normal connection. Just connect it straight. And that is the front armhole and the back armhole. And that is the marking for the front and the back bodies we'll be using for this dress. You go ahead and cut out. And remember that the front parts, the difference between the back and the front is the zipper allowance. So you make sure you put your zipper allowance at the front part when drafting the front part. And for the down part of the skirt, which is 42 inches plus 1 inch sewing allowance, 43 for the length. And for the width, I cut out 45 inches. 45 inches, depending on the size you're working with. Depending on the size you're working with. $45. The length of 43 inches and the width, that is the width where the waist, the one that will be on the waist, is 45 inches. And for this down part, I'm marking out where the ruffles will sit. This is the down part, marking out where the ruffles will sit. And I'm taking 15 inches. That 15 inches, I'm going to divide it into 3. Divide it into 3. That is where you're going to place the ruffles. And for the back part is going to be just one piece, because there's no zipper allowance. The zipper allowance is going to come to the front. So for the back part is going to be just one piece. You're not going to cut it into 2. And for the down part, you go ahead and gather it to the upper part of the skirt. And for the front is going to be 2, because that is where your zipper is going to sit. And for the down part, you're going to cut it into 2. The 45 inches, you are going to divide it into 2. For the front, the 45 inches for the width is going to the front, but for the back, the 45 inches, you're going to divide it into 2 for the 2 sides. Go ahead and divide it into 2 parts for the 2 sides. You go ahead and gather it to the upper parts. Gather it to the upper part of the bodies. And this is the front. I've gathered the front. This is the back. This is the back. I've gathered the back. As you can see, you go ahead and do the same to the front part. And that is the markings where we're going to attach the ruffles. Now for the bishop collar, after joining the upper part to the lower part, you join it to the shoulder. Make sure you join the 2 shoulders. After joining the shoulder, then you take your tape and measure the neckline, including the zipper allowance. Measure the neckline. Measure the neckline. Go ahead and measure the neckline. I'll be using this paper to cut it out. For the paper, you fold it into two, and the folded part should be facing you. The folded part should be facing you. You come up by 1 inch and go in by 1 inch. Come up by 1 inch and go in by 1 inch. The folded part should be facing you, and you go ahead and connect the two lines that you marked. Go ahead and connect the lines. After that, I'll be taking 1 inch because the collar, the bishop collar is going to be 1 inch. You go ahead and take 1 inch round. Go ahead and connect. Go ahead and connect the dots. And for this collar, I will just measure what I need because this is bigger than what I need. What I need is 18 inches divided by 2 is unfold. Divided by 2, that is 8. That is what I measured out. I measured out 8. Go ahead and cut it. And this is what I have. This is what I have. Then I'll go ahead and cut it on the fabric. I'll go ahead and cut it on the fabric on fold. The fabric is on fold and the collar is on fold. I'll go ahead and cut it. I'll be cutting 2 pieces. One is going to be the main fabric and one is going to be the lining, the collar lining. And when you're cutting on your fabric, make sure you add your sewing allowance, round it. Add your sewing allowance, round it. Add your sewing allowance and go ahead and cut. There is no sewing allowance at the edge. That is the front. There is no sewing allowance, just the two sides. Just the two sides and the end of the collar. That is where you're going to add your sewing allowance. And when you are done, you go ahead and iron your interface. That is the down part. Use the chalk to indicate the down part of the collar, and this is what I have. That is the down part. You go ahead and iron your interface on the main collar, and then you're going to stitch. Put the lining on top, and you're going to stitch with the sewing allowance you added when you were cutting. Stitch it with the sewing allowance. You can use 3/4, you can use 1/2 inch as your sewing allowance. This is what I have. You go ahead and sew the upper part. You are sewing the upper part of the collar, because you're going to the down part is going to be open. That is where you're going to join. That is where you're going to join. You go ahead and join the down parts. Go ahead and join the down parts. Take it round the neckline and stitch it down with the sewing allowance. Stitch it down with the sewing allowance. And when you're done stitching for the upper part, you're now going to use the upper part to close it up. Use the lining to close it up. Fold 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch and stitch it down. Go ahead and stitch it down. And for the down part, the ruffles, we are going to cut a long fabric. We are going to cut a long fabric, gather it and attach to the lower part. Gather it and attach to the lower part of the skirt. I've attached the first ruffles. You go ahead and attach the second one and the third ruffles. And as you're attaching it, you can make a little pleat from the upper part, from the gathers you formed at the upper part. It still goes down, so you can still arrange it and place the ruffles on top, so that the down part will not be too wide. You go ahead and place your ruffles. For the length of the ruffles, I marked 5 on the fabric. Then the ruffles that I cut is 6 inches, so that it can be able to cover my stitches. 6 inches, 6 inches. And when you're done fixing, go ahead and attach your zip. When you are done attaching the ruffles, go ahead and put your zip. As you can see, go ahead and put your zip. If you have any question, please ask in the comment section. Thank you for watching.